In that first year, 115 men and women were housed, and this program allows us to subsidize their rent for 3 months, and they work with a case manager or other service providers, and generally either transition in place or transition to a permanent housing unit where they begin to assume the rent.
Oh, pretty good though. Everybody is quiet. Ain't that many people over here. It's usually, we have about maybe 50 people stay over here. Around here. Some guys sleeping over in that park, over there by that building over there. But they can't go over there when they had a baseball game tonight. So they had to wait till the park attendants leave.
So, if you would guess, about how many nights have you slept out during the course of your lifetime?
Over I've been on the streets ever since 88. So yeah, it's been over.
Like you were referring to, you know, the deinstitutionalization of a lot of folks who were in mental health facilities in the 70s essentially just migrated into the criminal justice system.
Yes.
You know, I think it's a great thing that we've been able to bring the number of kids who go to the state prison system down so much. And not because we've just thrown them out into another system, but because we've come up with more creative ways, but also community-based ways. And you know what? There are certain people who absolutely, for their own protection or for the protection of the public, need to be locked up. And unfortunately, that may always be the case. For most people, institutions are just an artificial environment. That's the thing. They don't simulate reality, unless your reality is more institutions. I mean, prison is great at preparing you to be in prison. It's not necessarily great. In fact, it's usually not great in teaching you how to be a responsible citizen.
You know what I mean? So, what I'm thinking now, I'm thinking that I know I got a problem. I know what I need to do. I need to get somebody to help me to do it. And the only way that I can do it is like you got these rehab centers that you go in and you can sign out. If I go in, I don't want to sign out. I want somebody to sign me in and keep me there at least 6-7 months so I can feel myself getting better.
Out like a Lottie's eye. Hello, Ben. You doing all right today?
Oh, hi. How you doing? Ben DeSoto.
Ben?
Yes. Another Ben.
Ben and my other brother Ben. That's right. Have you already seen the You're in the process. Good deal. Well, I hope you come up soon.
Next week.
All right.
Yeah, glad to have you. Glad to have you in the house. You're a good friend. Good friend.
So do you guys?
See you later, too. Hey, babe.
You gonna give me your phone number?
Yeah.
You get the phone?
I'm gonna get the same number.
Okay.
But it's cut off now. So when I get another phone,
Well, just stay in touch with me.
I'm coming back.
All right.
I'll be back to see you out.
Love you, man.
I love you too.
Keep your head up out there,
Oh, yeah.
back
You
work.
know, keep on doing. Get your card. Get your
Hey, I
card.
went and got my ID today.
Okay.
I got it going my way.
Yeah.
Now you go down there and get your bus card. Go get your bus card.
I'll do it. I'm gonna come see you.
All right.
All right.
All
Take
right.
it easy.
Now Ben has been helping you kind of navigate the way. He's been trailblazing for you, yeah. So it's been helpful having someone.
Yes, sir.
Yeah?
We got some stuff in common, you know what I mean, that he got with me with, and he's helped me out a lot.
Good deal.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, he is. All right. Thank you so much. Now
Thank
you have a good day.
Y'all have a good one.
You wouldn't let me do it. Yeah, you could have did it for me.
You take care, man.
All right, man.
I'll see you.
All right, I'll be back.
Okay. I'm Marilyn Brown. I'm the president and CEO of the Coalition for the Homeless of Houston and Harris County. Well, in response to legislation that was passed at the federal level in 2009 called the HEARTH Act, there has been direction given around the country to all of the local agencies and the various departments that were working individually to try to solve homelessness to say, let's really work on a collaborative effort. Early 2012, the Houston community came together with bringing folks together that have been working on this issue in pretty much in silos, thinking from beginning to end that each individual agency had to solve all of the issues for each person who presented at their door. So to build a system where there were multiple partners working together, each doing what they did best. What happens now is we partner. Before, each one felt like they had to add the other piece, and they were doing things that wasn't their level of expertise. So by bringing everybody to the table, determining what our real needs in Houston were based on data of what we had, what we needed, and what our population, what the triggers and the ways that people were experiencing homelessness in our geographic jurisdiction, we created a system and began to build those partnerships.
And the results?
And the result is it's working. Amazing. We're so happy. We actually branded it, called it The Way Home, so that everybody kind of works under this same identity of The Way Home. And since January of 2012, when the system transformation started, we have documentation of over 4,300 veterans and their families have been moved from homelessness into housing, and over 3,000 formerly chronically homeless individuals, which is a very specific definition, people who are very vulnerable, but over 3,000 of them in the 4+ years have been moved from the street, because mostly chronic individuals are most of those that are unsheltered most of the time, and they are now successfully living in housing.
Okay. And so
the partners were recognized. We are following the goals that were put forth by the federal government in their national plan to end homelessness, which was drafted to support the legislation that was passed in 2009. And the national plan is called Opening Doors. Opening Doors began in 2010 and has 10 years worth of goals. The first two being end veteran homelessness by 2015 and end chronic homelessness by 2015. They've now extended their deadline a little bit once you realize what it takes to really accomplish those goals. And then begin to work on the system to end homelessness or solve homelessness for families, youth, and children, with the ultimate goal that we have embraced here in Houston, that by 2020 we will have transformed the system such that no person will need to be without permanent housing for longer than 30 days. Because when we use the word end, and this for that functional zero, will we end veteran homelessness? We won't end veteran homelessness until we no longer have veterans, and we will have veterans as long as we have a military. Houston has the second largest veteran population behind LA of any city in the United States. We have an incredible VA medical center. People come here, veterans come here because we welcome them and we want to support them, but a certain percentage of those will have trouble re-engaging into civilian life, and some of those will even fall into homelessness. So functional zero, if you picture the playground and a seesaw, functional zero is based on what we know now of the number of veterans who will return to our community, the percentage of those who will face a housing crisis. We have stabilized the amount of housing units and supportive services so that that seesaw, that supply and demand meet. To us, what it means is we have solved veteran homelessness such that there is a solution for each veteran within 30 days who finds themselves facing homelessness.
Which is a poem that I wrote. Now, when I wrote this poem, I was inspired to write it, but the title comes at the end. And so it goes like this. There is but one constant transition. Everything must change, evolving, advancing, progressing anew. Your destiny is history. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying. As long as there's life, there is hope. But time is of the essence. Don't hesitate. Good things come to those who wait, but not to those who wait too late. Don't get caught up in the play of youth. Make good use of your early years. Do it now. Don't wait till later, so your latter days will be greater. The idea of change can be overwhelming, and no one can do it alone. Trust the change committee. Our shoulders are broad and strong. Today, you're not heavy. My brother, my sister will help you to carry on. Join us as we stand ready to help, to guide you through the process step by step. We'll roll up our sleeves. There's work to be done. Look at us. We're living testimonies that the battle can be won. Old or young, it doesn't matter. What's important is that you get a new start. We're here to help you stand the test so that you can be your very best. Change.
Is it on that top side or the bottom side? Top side. Okay. Start there. Does cold ever aggravate it? Or?
Oh, she's in the picture. I'm sorry.
You take antibiotic for hurricane med? Can you put you on that side?
Yes, I mean, it's not much complicated, but I have to exercise the side to side.
Okay. Any sensitivity to treat? Initial in this little green corner. That's how we're doing
I thought you were going to have to mark this piece that hurt.
No.
You got it.
Yeah.
We are partnering with other organizations
Right.
because Houston has become much more sophisticated in how we address homelessness. No longer are we just managing the problem, which was what we were doing for, 20 plus years,
Right.
since the late 80s.
Right.
And now we're really becoming much more of a system in order to find a way to end homelessness quickly for a much greater number of people.
Outside, he's right here.
Hello. Hi. Are you hail from that area?
I'm Tal Costas, and I'm the president and CEO of Search Homeless Services.
Okay.
So now we are operating with a housing first concept.
Yes. Okay.
Which means that we don't have a judgment. We don't ask or require that people have to be clean and sober, that everything's got to be nice and neat for you to be able to move into a home. We're addressing the people who are the most sickest, the most vulnerable, the most likely to die, the people who've been on the street for years or cycling in and out of homelessness for quite a long time, and helping them get into permanent supportive housing. Permanent being the operative word, and supportive too. So we're not just putting them in an apartment and saying, yeah, you, good luck. No, we're going to continue to work with them because we know that a roof over your head is not the only answer. Exciting news is that we are about to move, after 20 years of being in this building here in Midtown, to another newly developing area, Edo, to build our new employment services and care hub. We are also building a second House of Tiny Treasures preschool for children who've experienced homelessness, whose families are working to rebuild their lives. So we'll be able to triple that capacity and serve a total of 104 children, 2 to 5 year olds, get them ready for school, get them ready for life. And with our new employment services and care hub, that's our new headquarters. It's going to be built to who we are today, and strategically what our community and how Search can best contribute to ending homelessness. We are partnering with other organizations because Houston has become much more sophisticated in how we address homelessness. No longer are we just managing the problem, which was what we were doing for 20 plus years, since the late 80s. And now we're really becoming much more of a system in order to find a way to end homelessness quickly for a much greater number of people. So when we began in 1989, it was about meeting basic needs, and then it became quickly about getting people back to work. So every couple of years, we were adding something new to our services, so that we became an organization that was doing engaging people through Resource Center, through mobile outreach. I know that you've gone with us to go see a lot of people out in the street and connect with them, to bring them in or to bring resources to them. Getting them stabilized, so case management that is focused on the chronically homeless, getting them the disability income so that they can get off the street, and getting them back to work. Employment services became rapid. Education, the House of Tiny Treasures. So because parents can't go to school or can't go to work either if they have young children, and they can't afford childcare, and they don't have a reliable support system to take care of their children. So childcare is critical. And of course, housing. So for many years, Search was also, providing housing. In our building currently, we have 42 single room occupancy apartments. We don't need to be in the landlord, property management business. Our expertise is in working with individuals and helping them to learn how to be a good neighbor, how to be back in the community, how to build community. So we have channeled our expertise towards just working with the tenants and the residents, and working with the partners like New Hope Housing, like the landlords and others, to provide the property. So it's a nice collaboration now, where we have our roles and we are able to share each other's expertise without having to feel like we have to do everything. So that's how Search has evolved, is from managing the problem to really being able to end homelessness. And that is the transition that has made us really much more successful as a community today.
And how was what role did the Coalition for the Homeless have for this?
So the Coalition for the Homeless has always been kind of a facilitator, coordinator function. And so they have a very strong role today, much more than ever before. I actually started working within homelessness at the Coalition for the Homeless from 92 to 95 before I got to Search. So yes, so even back then, it was about bringing together the different agencies so that we can do a better job of serving our clients and ultimately ending the experience. So today the Coalition is in charge of our data system.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a web-based data system that can track our clients across the different agencies. There are about 70 different agencies that participate in this data system. And so they can see kind of our community overall, how many people enter into our network of services, and who kind of gets caught up in there,
mm-hmm.
and who are able to get out quickly on their own or with a little bit of help.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they are also working with us on kind of being the project manager of some of these critical system pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So the first is coordinated access. How do we get people quickly assessed for the right housing,
mm-hmm.
get them matched up to housing? And then they also are doing the project management with now, of course, the income piece,
mm-hmm.
employment. How do we get people to not just get into housing, but also get money
mm-hmm.
to support themselves?
Yeah. Which is such an important piece, that purposefulness, and you know, even with a job, or a volunteer job, or someplace, you know, it kind of ties into that social component.
Right.
That we need to have as all human beings, you know,
Yeah.
to various degrees of privacy or just alone time, but too much alone time. Cypress?
Shelley Cypress.
Okay, I have some photographs of her. And I've
Yes,
seen them on
yes, yes.
the
So
wall.
Shelley is an amazing woman, and she still is actively involved with us today.
Yeah.
And she is an incredible founder who has progressed with us over the years.
Mhm.
You know, we don't have to worry about founder syndrome with Shelley because
Mhm.
she is very contemporary
Mhm.
in the way that she thinks. And so Search, you know, we've been around since 1989.
Mhm.
So we've had to evolve with what the community has needed, what our clients have needed.
Tell us about your success. How have things changed in Harris County from the time that you started to where you are now?
When I first started back in 2006, we moved into this building. This building used to be, from about 1951, for about 50 years, was the county jail and the criminal courthouses. We had kids over at a facility in West Dallas where they had been for decades. Built this new facility, and the moment we moved in, we were already way over population. We were often at 300 kids a day, 250 to 300 kids a day, in a place that has a capacity for about 200, maybe 220. And within, that was say 2006, by about 2010, we often would have an average daily population of about 150, sometimes even lower than that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in a county that has been growing at a rate of about 80,000 new residents a year. So that was a huge success. Trying to get kids more at home and out of even private placements ended up saving the county about $700,000 a month.
Some questions about Girls Court.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Do you want to go ahead and just read with this, or just kind of?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay,
if you wanted to do some of this first.
Well, since its inception back in 2011, Girls Court has served about 27 kids in the very intense program. Luckily, we've been able to serve a lot of other kids because of the tools and the resources that we've developed through Girls Court that don't have to go through the intensive program of Girls Court, but still get the benefits. And in fact, since we've started red flagging these kids, we've been able to serve a couple hundred of them. The program has about a 69% successful completion rate, which, although I would love to improve, is actually quite high, considering the lowest of the low-risk kids who go through our deferred programs have about a 90% successful completion rate. So around 70% is, considering this population, is pretty impressive. Now, as of November of 2013, after we had been doing this for about 2 years, our program was developed to where we can serve up to 24 youth at a time by having an additional probation officer that the probation department has dedicated just for the program. In fact, the Harris County Juvenile Probation Department created a new position to coordinate services for all victims of human trafficking, including the ones that aren't participating directly in Girls Court. And then our last legislative session, Senate Bill 92 passed, which allowed for juvenile boards in counties across Texas, because of the success of Girls Court, to create their own programs where they can not only provide those services, but also provide sealing and even wraparound services that hopefully will last beyond their involvement in the probation system. And I think that's about all that's on that card.
And these are all young women, underage, under 18. Young.
Right. Well, they're actually, they're
the system right now that exists is the 211, which is the social services network that's run by United Way. And so you call 211 and they begin to start connecting you with people that can help, with agencies that can help, that provide that. If there's someone you see on the corner on a regular basis right now, there is a system website, thewayhomehouston.org, and so info at The Way Home Houston. You can send some descriptive information of this particular individual is on this corner on a regular basis, and then that's distributed to teams like the HOT team from the police department or the search outreach team or some of the other groups. Many times they'll say, yep, we know him, his name's Joe, he's been there for so many years, we go talk to him on a regular basis. But it's also the way we know when a new population is showing up in a part of town that we don't know about. So info at thewayhomehouston.org to let us know about a person, and then a person seeking help. Really, I think the best way to start is 211. Or there is some information on thewayhomehouston.org that gives some guidance as to shelters where you can tell someone to go find a shelter for the night. Okay, now I got to. City of Chicago. Well, 5 years ago, the City of Chicago was leading the nation in their solutions. And so now they're calling us saying, we want to learn from you. And I said, well, what we've put into place, we learned from you 5 years ago. So it really gave me pause to think about, our solution and the system transformation and everything we're doing. It's no different than growth of any kind of business. And it can never stagnate. As success is felt and changes are put into place, you got to always measure it back on the need. And so a lot of focus, for a lot of good reasons, in the first 4 years has been on that chronic homeless individual, which we mentioned, very sick, been mentally, physically, substance abuse, multiple dual diagnosis, lots of things going on, been without shelter for a year, and many more in some cases. So these are folks that were very, they're high consumers. Yeah. You're exactly right. And so we focused and built things to support the high consumer. Well, once we hit our goal of no one has to be without permanent housing for longer than 30 days, that consumer is going to have a different set of circumstances. So if we haven't continued to change and tweak our system and we assume we always have the same consumer, then we're going to be 5 years down the road calling Chicago again, because they got really good and focused on this one population. But if you don't realize that if you've changed that population, you need to change your response to that population. And so I think it's like any other business, that you got to know your customer, you got to know what their needs are, you got to know what resources you have available, and you continue to tweak those. And I think because we're not a Wall Street, what have you done for me today company, most of this work happens in the nonprofit world and the government world, both of which have been very successful in the past of saying, let's figure out the solution and keep doing it. What we've got to know and what we've all got to realize is there's a solution for today, and then we got to look at tomorrow's circumstances and see if it's the same solution. So that's a little counterproductive to how those two industries normally function. And so I think as we're moving down the path, because we're even seeing it, we're getting close to being able to announce the end of chronic homelessness. And we began now, we're in kind of year 2 of opening the doors a little bit more to that family, youth, which is more the economic driven homelessness that we talked about. So we're tweaking for them. And then, you know, so you kind of have two balls in the air. It appeared overnight, but it became in a very short period of time something very visual and what's going on, and something's happened in our community. And so the federal government responded to it by beginning to pour some dollars into the communities. And so the coalition was actually created based on an agreement by the then current mayor of the city of Houston, who was Kathy Whitmire, and the then county judge of Harris County, who was John Lindsay, who said, okay, there's money coming down, you know, we're two governments, why don't we create a third-party organization that's separate from the government to actually help work with all the agencies and get the money to the right place. So that's our birth, was to really begin to work in that coordinating role. Now, between the early 80s and 2009, when the new legislation was signed into law of the Hearth Act, we were kind of trying to, you know, chase the next bubble of, well, let's go do this, let's support the community, because there really was no larger body giving any kind of direction around coordination.
Which represents that second generation architecture of searchability.
Really, the signing of the Hearth Act in 2009 and the start of the work in 2012 gave the coalition a very clear coordinating role administratively, and then it also gave us the template to build the system where the agencies can fill in. So over the years, and I wasn't there, so over the years I think the coalition you know, tried different methods to say, okay, our name is coalition, so does that mean we bring everybody together and figure out what they need? So we worked a bit as a membership organization. So there were, you know, different ways to try to say what is the best way we can serve a community that was very separate and disjointed. So the coordination, the insistence of a collaborative model, and it's, you know, if you want to get the money, you're going to follow these rules, and so there you go. And we do get in our community around 60 or so plus programs, between $25 and $30 million a year from the federal government. So it's enough to get your attention. And the good news is we see that it's being redirected now and having greater response.
And how many
in detention, as opposed to letting them be at home? You know, it's funny how sometimes just a little tweak can make a big difference. Used to, we didn't have any sort of GPS monitoring for the, and we only typically use those for kids who have allegedly committed the most serious acts. When we initially had that technology, it cost these families about $300 a month to lease these GPS monitors. And I started to look at it after a while, and I thought, you know, all these folks are indigent. Why don't we provide this to them? If it costs a couple $100s a day to keep someone in a facility, but we could spend a couple $100s a month and they get to live at home, safely and we know where they are, why punish taxpayers or a family when you can figure out a safe way to keep them where they are? Essentially change the paradigm of, okay, let's say we have someone who's so dangerous they need to be locked up. Why don't we lock them up at their house instead of in a prison cell? You know, in what's essentially an old county jail. Have them go to school. Sometimes it even improves their chance of getting a good disposition if they're found to have done what they were accused of, because if they're at home for a few months waiting for trial and they don't get in any trouble, they go to school every day, they're not on drugs. When it comes to their punishment phase, they can say, look, I can do this. I can succeed at home, as opposed to when you have someone who's locked up in a holding cell. They go to trial, it's found that they did do what they say that they did. Then the state is going to argue, look, we don't know how they're going to do at home. That obviously they're dangerous or they wouldn't be locked up. Let's lock them up even longer. As opposed to giving somebody a chance to have a track record. And you're talking about saving the county thousands of dollars a month per person. But it's also scary because, you know, part of my duty as a judge is also to protect the public. And coming up with some sort of an accurate risk analysis can be really can be a tough thing to do. But it's interesting. I'm on the there's now a Harris County Criminal Justice Coordinating Commission, or Coordinating Council, I think is what it's called. We have other judges, the DA, our Chief Public Defender, a couple of county commissioners, and it's interesting looking at the adult jail system and versus who we have now in our juvenile system. We just don't have low-level offenders in our juvenile facility here in Harris County anymore, which I think is a great thing. You know, we don't have kids who spend a week in detention because they picked up a marijuana offense, or because they're not going to school, or because they shoplifted. Whereas in the county jail, you have a lot of people who just can't afford to get out. You know, we could legally have a bond system like they have in the adult system, but we don't do that.
This is the most important part, is counting. These are people on the street. Now, here's a different thing as well. Because of the weather and because of the area of town that you're in, we're not asking that you go into any encampments. Please don't. It's their home.